So when I think of the world's wealthiest person, right, I automatically think that I love that guy. That is someone that I love. I think, boy, if only everybody were as great as that guy.
Really?
But
That's what you think?
I'm an outsider, like I'm not that common, so, if you are one of those people that doesn't automatically think the ultra wealthy are God's favored children, then we thought we would dive into a little bit deeper in the background of our wealthiest individual, Elon Musk.
Yes, because this show is notoriously pro-billionaire.
Pro-billionaire.
We love the billionaires, all right? We have we got them on speed dial.
Yeah, we love them. Come listen to our show. Give us money.
Yeah. So, before we get into this, why the fuck is a political show doing a segment about Elon Musk?
It's a great question. Yeah, aside from just like, we should tax the wealthy until they're not so wealthy. Yeah, that's a good question. Nathan, why are we even talking about this guy? What does he matter?
So, first off, as I alluded to in the intro to this podcast, unfortunately, in today's political landscape, which is dominated by money and moneyed interests, every single billionaire is a political force, because every single billionaire has the ability to give ungodly amounts of money to political candidates or political causes that support their own interests, which means that if a billionaire is becoming politically active in a specific fashion or on a specific issue, their comments, their opinions do matter. Mm-hmm. They're not just the loud mouth at the bar. Their opinions are going to have an actual impact.
Yeah.
So they're worth looking at. Number two, Elon Musk owns Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, need I say more? There is a lot of discourse that happens on Twitter. There is the ability for people in power to spread bullshit on Twitter. There is also the ability for people who are activists to spread their messages and to spread truth on Twitter. It is a public space. It is a public square. And the person who has power over a public sphere such as Twitter, their opinions matter and their actions do matter in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I can't imagine a more powerful combination. The richest person on earth in control, direct despotic control over at least one of the US's largest platforms for political speech, including speech from politicians. It is the platform for all of that stuff. So he has absolutely an incredible and outsized influence on many aspects of political life.
Yes. So we thought we'd do a segment in which we kind of broke down, who the fuck is this guy? What does he actually stand for? And is he a force for good or bad in the world?
Yeah.
Because there are some people whom I have a lot of respect for that find Elon Musk to be a force for good.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many people that I also have a lot of respect for that think that he is a raging dog shit fire.
Mm-hmm. And so, honestly, he's probably a bit of both. And we'll get into it for sure. Because, like,
honestly, yeah.
Yeah, because, like, early on in his career, he spent a lot of time convincing people and investing in the image of himself as a visionary for good.
Yeah.
And yeah, we should talk about whether that's the case. Ultimately, though, to your point, Nathan, his approval rating in 2021, according to one poll, was 50%.
Yeah.
Which is way higher than normal billionaires, but also like way higher than presidents, political leaders. Like, this is a very popular individual who, appears to be a force for driving innovation and then improving climate and all that stuff. So we should figure out what's behind this guy.
So the first thing that I think we should quickly address is the Emerald Mine.
Yeah. Which is not a metaphor.
There's a lot of that's not a metaphor.
The Emerald Mine in the room, you know? Yeah.
There's a lot of conflicting narratives about the Emerald Mine.
Yeah.
So let me try to walk you all through it and hopefully try to get to the bottom of what is the Emerald Mine and how much truth is there to it, and to what extent did it help, if it exists or if it is a factor, to what extent did it prop Elon Musk up? First off, let's understand what it is. Basically, there was this rumor that started going around, I believe it was in 2014, that Elon Musk was not as much of the self-made man as he tried to portray himself to be. That what had actually happened was that his father had owned some massive emerald mine in South Africa, became monumentally wealthy, and then gave Elon Musk this massive, basically jumpstart in sending him to America. So what is the truth to that? Well, it is confirmed that Elon Musk's father did actually own a stake in an emerald mine. The emerald mine was actually in Zambia, not in South Africa, even though they did live in South Africa. Recently, Elon Musk actually basically said, offered like a cryptocurrency bounty, saying if anybody can prove that it actually exists, like I'll give you a bunch of money. And then Elon Musk's father did an interview with The Sun in which he basically said, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course it exists. Now, in Elon Musk's defense, in the same article, his father did dispute the claim that Elon Musk was basically this trust fund baby that was jump-started by his father, and and that his father basically gave him a ton of money to help fund his businesses. His father did say that Elon Musk has made good decisions business-wise, and that Elon Musk has earned what he has right now. But he did confirm, or at least he did argue, he did claim that he did have a stake in an emerald mine. There was kind of an under-the-table emerald mine, which, he assumes that's why Elon Musk offered a bounty, because he figured it would be really hard for people to prove that it exists, because it was this under-the-table type of emerald mine.
Human rights abuses never occur in off-the-books emerald mines.
What he did say was that he actually did send Elon Musk money over to the United States in order to help pay for his college, in order to help pay for his room and board, which disputes the claim that Elon Musk has been making about how he graduated from college with over $100,000 in student debt.
Yeah. A big part of Elon's personal narrative is a bit of a rags to riches story. And frequent claims that, like, while he was investing millions of dollars in businesses, he was having to borrow money to pay rent. Because, he's just had to put his money where, his values lie.
Now, Elon Musk has admitted that when he started his first company, which was Zip2, that his dad did provide him some financial aid in the form of $200,000 in angel funding. But he also claims that that was after the company had already kind of established itself, and therefore there was no risk for it anymore. Now, how much truth is there to that? I don't know. I honestly don't know. And I think that probably summarizes a lot of the claims about the Emerald Mine, because at this point, I mean, I will say I usually find dads to be fairly credible sources of information, but it is kind of his word against his dad's word.
Sure.
So to what extent did his father fund his way through college and pay for his room and board?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. And
Yeah.
at this point, I would say there's not enough evidence in the form of direct documentation to demonstrate one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But, the other point that I would make is that I don't know how much, I mean, okay, it matters if there was an emerald mine that was conducting human rights abuses. But to the extent that we're talking about whether or not Elon Musk was like self-made or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much it matters, because I'm already of the belief that you should have tuition-free college,
Mm-hmm.
that money should never be that money should never be a barrier to going to college. Yep. In fact, I even like the model that they've done in a lot of Scandinavian countries where they actually give students stipends to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, since I believe that, I think that it's reasonable for me to look at something like that and be like, well, I have no problem with the fact that you're paying for your son to go through college.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what my parents did.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you have parents that can afford that, then great.
Yeah.
It means that you can focus on your studies. Now, that is a privilege that not everybody can have, and it's a little bit annoying that Elon Musk has dismissed the idea of college in the past as being something that people just do for fun, that you don't actually need, which, is easy for you to fucking say.
Yeah.
But
we went to University of Pennsylvania in Wharton. We went to an Ivy League school.
Yeah. So like, to the extent that it interferes with his narrative, I don't know how much it matters.
I 100% agree with you. And I'll add a point to that. Like, to your point, it's one thing if he's saying this because he's lying to try to get credit.
Yeah.
That is a problem. It's hard to tell if he's lying or not. Most importantly, though, it's absurd to think that $20,000 or college tuition or whatever can really be the difference maker relative to $200 billion in wealth. All of us started from poverty. If you started with like $200,000, that's still poverty relative to $200 billion in wealth. So it's just like not really relevant. Like there are lots of people who have their college paid for and don't become the wealthiest person on earth. And so like, I totally agree with you. I think it says more about what his motivations might be than it says about him individually. If it's a lie, that says more about him than whether it actually matters that it is true. Yeah. And to your point, like, to be fair, like, Zip2, even with a $200,000 infusion of cash, sold for $340 million.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah. That's an amazing feat to be the founder of something that sold for that much money. Yeah. One thing I will say, though, to your point is one thing that I found really interesting as I was trying to do research on Musk was the amount of fawning over him that there was.
Yeah.
Like, it took some digging to add some level of depth to the lore surrounding Elon.
Yeah, that is one of the things that I found difficult too, because he has absolutely created a kind of creepy cult of personality around him. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes makes it hard to find information that is reliable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's something that I struggled with as well.
So after he sold Zip2, he and his brother sold it for $340 million. He used his buyout to create a quote unquote fintech called X.com, which promised to totally redefine banking, become the bank of the future, and all this stuff. As a result, he got like lots of funding. It was very splashy, all this stuff. An issue is that it doesn't seem like it actually was much of anything.
Yeah.
And so if you were to just read the headlines that all the fawning articles say, he like turned $340 million into this, groundbreaking fintech company that turned into PayPal, and he's this genius. But ultimately, like, Elon's co-founders were pretty frustrated with him because so much of his emphasis was on selling the image of X.com to the media, even though there wasn't really very much to the company itself. In fact, according to future SEC filings, the company even mentioned that they had a total lack of proprietary technology as a corporate risk. Yeah. And so, and on top of that, their tech like didn't work. Like it had a number of cybersecurity risks and a number of like money laundering risks, like allowing potential bad actors to transfer funds with from any account in the nation's banking system with just an account number. So very few protections on the flow of money.
So one of the narratives that we often are fed about Elon Musk is that his, I guess, contribution to the creation of PayPal revolutionized the entire financial sector of the world.
Yes.
To what extent is that actually true, Michael?
It's not really true. It seems not very, very true at all. So what happened basically was Peter Thiel had founded a company called Cofinity, which owned a product in a company called PayPal. And X.com was merged with this company. And, you know, it's one of those things that depending on which source you read, it's difficult to tell what the truth is. Because some of them say Elon Musk revolutionized PayPal and then Peter Thiel ousted him. Other sources seem to say that, Musk was, largely mismanaging X.com and continued to try to promote that brand despite being merged with another company. And that ultimately the X.com part of the product was abandoned and the PayPal product continued. One executive named Roelof Botha alleged that Musk may have been hiding serious financial issues from the board of directors. And eventually, the pro Musk narrative says that Peter Thiel ousted him. But this other narrative is that basically employees of the company petitioned the board to fire Musk because of his harmful impact on the company. And ultimately, he was fired. And according to this executive, Botha, quote, "It would have killed the company if Elon had stayed on as CEO for 6 more months."
Yikes.
Yikes. Yikes indeed.
So maybe not the financial sector revolutionary that he purports to be.
Perhaps not.
Well, I think it's a good time to transition to what I think he's best known for, which is cars.
Yes.
So one of the things that he is most given credit for is revolutionizing electric vehicles, specifically through the use of lithium-ion batteries. So the company Tesla is known for creating one of the first electric vehicle that was sold for regular commercial use. Now, how much credit can Elon Musk get for that? Well, first off, I think it's important to note that the use of lithium-ion batteries was not originally his idea. The original co-founders of Tesla were Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. I think that's how you say their names. And Elon Musk joined the company because basically they needed someone to fund it. Mm-hmm. Like they wanted someone to provide the funding for it. And, Elon Musk at this point was already very wealthy.
Yep.
So Elon Musk in April of 2004 invested $6.35 million out of Tesla's $6.5 million Series A funding. So basically, he was the guy with the money.
Yeah.
He wasn't the ideas guy. He was the guy with the money. Mm-hmm. And in fact, initially, the idea of the initial propulsion system failed to convince Musk. And then the two co-founders basically shared their love of space exploration when they met Musk and used that as the conversation starter.
Interesting.
And that's what ended up bringing him on board because he was like, oh, we can eventually use some of the technology we develop in these propulsion systems to make rockets. I want to go to space. Fuck it. I'm in.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
And what's interesting is that later down the line, Eberhard was eventually voted off the island, as in his own words. And in 2009, he publicly accused Musk of mismanaging Tesla, which, you know, would lead to, among other things, some court battles that had happened. And then the other co-founder, Tarpening, he left ahead of the Model S launch, but apparently he's still on good terms with Musk. The point is, he was not necessarily the original idea guy.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's done nothing for the company. Obviously, his investment kind of drove it forward. But the question is that because he's a smart engineer, or is it because he's a rich guy that saw an opportunity?
Sure. Yeah. And being a rich guy with an opportunity is credible, right? Like being able to identify a good opportunity, especially one on the cutting edge of technology and innovation, is a very valuable trait to have. Does that make him the 50% approval rating worthy, you know, god of business that people worship him as? Maybe not. Does it make him the person responsible for, you know, saving the planet by reducing emissions from cars? Probably not. Partially because he wasn't the founder. Partially because he ousted the founder and really attempted to gain a lot of use Tesla to gain a lot of prominence. Partially because of the way that Musk has, you know, used his charisma and, you know, savvy with the media to be able to drive interest and investment. Things like advocating for Tesla to receive like loans from the government during like 2008 bailouts. Things like, you know, bolstering Tesla's profit and loss statements, right? Their P&L, by, you know, receiving a lot of carbon credits, which is, you know, great. They're not producing a bunch of greenhouse gases, but then turning around and selling those carbon credits to other companies so that they could produce those greenhouse gases and Tesla could, you know, look less unprofitable. Ultimately, I think a lot of people are holding out for Elon Musk, the good guy, to win out in the end, right? They're holding out for the short-term necessity of someone who repeatedly misleads investors about secured funding in order to garner more funding. Someone who, you know, sees some of the potential in reducing greenhouse gases and sustainability, parlays that into an image of like a savior, a very wealthy billionaire savior, and then, you know, gets credit for reducing greenhouse gas emissions while selling carbon emissions to other companies. And this is all just part of getting to the end state of, like, you know, doing all of the incredible things that Elon Musk claims are part of his vision. They're just necessary. We have to put up with Musk in order to get all these benefits. And I think that's what makes his cult of personality so dangerous, is that people are willing to accept a lot of terrible things from him.
Yeah.
They're willing to put up with someone owning personally $200 billion, who lies to people continuously, who purchases Twitter and then makes it horrible. And we can talk more about that. Who is sued regularly, not just, you know, not frivolously, who's fined by the SEC for misleading investors. Like, we're willing to put up with this guy because he seems so special.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, I think Americans are often like predisposed to want to see some type of hero come and save us.
Yeah.
And I mean, what better hero than some supposedly genius dude trying to make electric cars to fight against climate change?
Totally.
Because honestly, all of the anxiety regarding climate change is very real.
Yeah.
And electric cars, make no mistake, that's the transportation of the future. Now, there's a lot of things that need to be worked out. You know, we do have to consider the fact that a lot of the lithium that is mined in order to create the batteries are often mined by borderline slave labor in foreign countries, which That's not okay.
Yeah.
The devices that's used to mine it in the first place produce a hell of a lot of carbon emissions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also important to consider the fact that even though they are more efficient than combustion engines, if the electricity that's going into the vehicle is coming from a coal power plant anyway,
Yep.
it's still producing carbon emissions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about the cars. You also have to make sure that you're making the entire energy sector green.
Yeah.
So but all that being said, electric cars are absolutely the cars of the future.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to happen because, even without climate change, we're running out of fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And we're going to run out eventually, or at least we're going to get to the point where it is just not financially feasible to continue to burn fossil fuels
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to be so rare and so expensive that
Yep.
like, why the fuck would you do that? But the thing is, Musk is not the only reason why that's happening in the first place.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
I think that's the important point.
Yeah.
You could say that he is an important factor in what allowed Tesla to rise to prominence,
Mm-hmm.
but the people that make that happen are the people that work for him, are
Yeah.
the engineers that come up with brilliant ideas in order to improve the technology. I mean, this is a problem that I think a lot of activist groups and activist movements have had in the past, where there's always such an emphasis placed on figureheads that you don't think about all of the people working behind the scenes to make it happen in the first place.
Totally.
Because, you want to have a hero to praise when things are going right. You want to have a hero to look at and be like, that's the guy that saved me. But that's not the guy that's saving you. There are a lot of people that are trying to save you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's worth being skeptical of this cult of personality. For example, the blog post that Elon Musk, put out, the master plan blog post for Tesla, which, is supposed to be this incredible strategic document, appears to be largely the strategy that Tesla was already planning to implement prior to Elon Musk coming in and taking control of the company. So like even that is like worth questioning. On top of it, there's some evidence, and pretty good evidence, that he runs his companies badly. Not just runs them like sweatshops, which he does, but also runs them really dysfunctionally. So on the sweatshop side, in May 2017, the New York Times reported that the safety record at Tesla's Fremont, California factory reported incident rates that were even above some of the most dangerous industries in the United States. We're talking about more injuries in the Tesla factory than in sawmills and slaughterhouses. And in 2018, the injury rate improved, but just like so many of Elon Musk's claims to fame, it's more smoke and mirrors than it is credible. So it turns out that one of the reasons that it improved was because they started to proactively avoid reporting injuries rather than actually reducing injury rates, including not calling ambulances for injured employees so that it wouldn't be reported. So,
Jesus.
Terrible fucking conditions. And I think it's tempting for us to overlook some of the dysfunction in his offices as well because of how highly paid some of these people are. Like, everybody has heard the stories of Elon Musk's fucking tirades, his tears. He'll go on firing sprees, or he'll force people to work for, impossible hours. And that's horrible. That's yes, it's not as bad as perhaps working horrible hours in a sweatshop or in one of his factories where you're going to get physically injured. But these are really dysfunctional work environments and dysfunctional leadership. And on top of that, his own ego and cult of personality that he's fostered himself seems to be leading to a lot of dysfunction in his organization. So one chief engineer at Tesla, as an example of this dysfunction, a chief engineer at Tesla reached out to him, notifying him of potentially serious safety concerns with the Model S. Rather than, taking these concerns and going and fixing it, she was immediately fired. So to your point,
That's
like,
not what the good guy does.
yeah, and again, it's one of the these are the things that we seem to be willing to put up with in order to get the goods. But it seems like he's not necessarily delivering the goods. And to your point, like it's tempting not only to feel like we need a hero, but it's hard to make the claim that there isn't something unique and special and worthy about Elon Musk. It's hard to look at someone and say, you're the richest person. You must have done something. There's some reason why you're the richest person. And there probably is, but it might not be that he's our savior. You know?
Yeah. So let's talk about Twitter.
Yeah. Twitter's an interesting one.
Twitter is a very interesting one. And I think at this point we're going to start to drift over a little bit more into political character territory. Than just competence, but there's definitely a lot to be said about competence regarding Twitter.
Yeah, no kidding. So in 2022, Elon Musk bought Twitter. It was terrible. So there's lots of reasons why this was a total fucking disaster. Partially, it's trading on the same grift that he's been trading on for many of his companies, where he signals that he has funding for a big financial move in order to then get funding for the big financial move. The problem was, in this case, he claimed to have funding to purchase Twitter at a very high price. And then a significant amount of that funding was coming from his own Tesla stock, which significantly dropped in value. In fact, he holds the world record for the person that has lost the most money ever, where he lost $182 billion between November 2021 and January 2023, which dropped the bottom out of his ability to buy Twitter. And yet he was locked into this contract, which is why he went on that whole thing of like claiming that the Twitter bots were the reason he didn't want to buy Twitter, right? It was his attempt to try to back out of the deal without being charged $1 billion in penalty fees. And the reason Tesla stock lost all that money is because of his attempts to use it to buy Twitter. And as a result, he's been sued by tons of people, including Tesla investors and the Twitter board as well, for trying to back out of the deal. Ultimately, he was able to pull together both his funding and add in a bunch more cash from his Tesla stock and buy Twitter. And it has only gotten worse since then.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, so the reason why he said he wanted to buy Twitter was because he was this free speech absolutist. And he didn't like all of the censorship that was happening on Twitter. He didn't like the fact that dissonant voices were being targeted, that stories were being silenced, that politicians were coordinating with Twitter in order to silence specific stories that made them look bad. And he's doing this because he's this free speech absolutist, free speech warrior. Here's the problem with that. First off, and we talked about this on the pod, when the Twitter files were initially released, or at least the interpretation of the Twitter files were released by two journalists that were already biased in favor of Elon Musk, who had taken a look at the Twitter files. It was revealed that literally the only example of the Biden administration telling them to like delete a tweet were dick pics of Hunter Biden. And it even revealed the fact that the Trump White House had also asked them to delete some stories. Now, we don't know what stories they were trying to delete, but they had asked them to delete some stories. So basically, it ended up being a big nothing. All right. Even though the people that were demonstrating it were trying to show it, were trying to do it in a way that incriminated Twitter, that incriminated the Biden administration. It completely fell apart.
Yeah.
Now, I would just like to say, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that I usually think of myself as a free speech absolutist, and I usually don't like political censorship when it comes to social media. So if we're actually looking at the goal, I completely agree with the goal of trying to that Elon Musk tried to purport to have. But here's the problem. It's complete bullshit because a report came out that showed that Elon Musk has actually been coordinating with authoritarian leaders around the world in order to silence political dissonance on the platform.
Jesus fucking
And the funny
Christ.
thing is, when I first heard that, I heard it from one of the leftist commentators that I follow, and I honestly thought there's got to be more to it than that. Like, there's, maybe it's like some political dissonance got caught in an algorithm or something, and, they're trying to make something out of nothing. But no, apparently that's exactly what fucking happened, and Musk even admitted it and defended it with the stupidest fucking defense I've ever seen in my life. Okay, so Turkey, whose leader is Erdogan, who is this authoritarian douche, basically pressed in the courts of Turkey to either ban Twitter from Turkey if Twitter did not agree to basically shut down some specific accounts of political dissonance. And in responding to this allegation, specifically, this was an allegation that Matt Yglesias, who is a Bloomberg columnist, said. He tweeted, quote, "The Turkish government asked Twitter to censor its opponents right before an election, and @Elon Musk complied." Musk replied to this, saying, quote, "Did your brain fall out of your head, Yglesias? The choice is to have Twitter throttled in its entirety or limit the access of some tweets. Which one do you want?" You think that's a fucking defense? You think that's a fucking defense? So a fucking authoritarian leader comes to you and says, "I'm going to take your entire social media platform out of my country unless you censor my political opponents." And you think that going along with it to try to keep Twitter in there in general is a defense? You think that that's a defense? You have just given authoritarian leaders all across the fucking globe a roadmap for you to censor their political dissonance for them. You just did that. So you know what you do if a fucking dictator comes up to you and says, "Censor my political dissonance, or I'm not gonna let Twitter be in my country." You know what you say to that person if you are actually a free speech absolutist, if you're actually principled about free speech? You know what you say to them? Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself. You fight
that's
it.
the simplest
That's what you
answer.
do. You fight it.
He could take a few $1,000,000 and invest in like technology that could easily hack their like internet and enable people access to Twitter if he really wants them to be able to communicate using Twitter in the country. Like there are tech solutions that aren't just saying fuck you, that aren't giving into dictators and authoritarians trying to censor their populace.
Yeah. Also, one of the things that I love, so Jimmy Wales, who is the founder of Wikipedia, chimed in on the thread, and he said, quote, "What Wikipedia did, we stood strong for our principles. We fought the Supreme Court of Turkey and won. This is what it means to treat freedom of expression as a principle rather than a slogan." And then a bunch of people were arguing, saying, "Well, Wikipedia is not a for-profit organization, but Twitter is for-profit." And he basically responded with, "Okay, so if you're putting money ahead of principles, then just fucking say that. Just come out and say that. That's what you're doing. Just come out and say that's what you're doing." So apparently a similar thing happened in India with Modi. This dude buys Twitter because he was trying to, because his original accusation was, "Oh, well, they're coordinating with a bunch of liberal politicians in order to censor stories." And it turns out those stories were just fucking dick pics. But then he directly coordinates with an actual authoritarian government to do the exact thing that he bought Twitter to prevent. Yeah. Jesus Christ. You cannot be the good guy if you do that. You cannot be the good guy if you coordinate with dictators, with authoritarians to censor their political opponents. You cannot do that. I'm sorry. Elon Musk is completely full of shit.
Yeah. Shit. That's crazy. That is fucking nuts. I had not read that story. That blows my fucking mind. Cause like he's been doing like not free speech absolute shit in the United States. Like shadow banning continues at Twitter, all that kind of stuff. But the fact that like he's directly suppressing dissidents in authoritarian countries is crazy. So that's the thing. That's the recap. Elon Musk appears to be largely full of shit on his ability to run companies really well, his status as a visionary, his status as a warrior for sustainable energy, his status as a warrior for free speech absolutism. And it really does appear that Elon Musk is leveraging his image, his ability to get attention talking about these issues and garner significant public support to basically be able to do whatever the fuck he wants and bully people and have us all put up with it because he's just that special, and we just have to put up with it if we want a future that he describes. It's a pretty amazing con. Even that's the thing. We can bite the bullet. We can say Elon Musk is exceptional in a bunch of ways. We can say that he's done great things for space exploration and efficiency and electric cars and all this stuff, and still say that Elon Musk is not the savior that he pretends to be, and he's full of shit in a lot of ways.
Yeah. The last point I want to make, I think the final nail in the coffin, well, two final nails in the coffin, he endorsed Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
Who is a climate change denier.
Mm-hmm.
If Ron DeSantis became president, that would not just put a delay on fighting climate change, that would be a regression in fighting climate change. Like, if you honestly think Ron DeSantis would make a good president, you don't care about climate change anymore. Like, you do not care about climate change. And what's funny is, like, he said he would support Ron DeSantis after saying that he was looking for a sensible centrist. DeSantis is to the right of Trump. Mm-hmm. Are you kidding me? And on top of that, he's an anti-trans bigot.
Yeah.
He tweeted recently, quote, "This is a major problem. I will be actively lobbying to criminalize making severe, irreversible changes to children below the age of consent. Shame on those who advocate this. It is utterly contemptible." Of course, mischaracterizing most gender-affirming care for minors, mm-hmm. Most of which is either reversible or mostly reversible or not done at a really young age. Mm-hmm. Jordan Peterson, who, we'll actually talk more about him a little bit later. Jordan Peterson commented on this tweet, said, quote, "Prison, long-term, without parole, no mercy, and maybe for the compliant therapists as well as the butchers they enable," to which Musk responded, "Absolutely." He wants to criminalize therapists for providing gender-affirming care to people who need it, to kids who need it.
Life-saving care to people who need it.
Life-saving care. There are people that I am very close to that do that. Mm-hmm. And you just fucking threatened them with prison.